If you are reading this, take a second to like and subscribe, because this story may change the way you see life and love. Ryan Carter had the world at his feet. He was a young, brilliant CEO whose name filled business magazines, whose smile appeared flawless in every interview. But behind that perfect image was a man who traded something priceless for something temporary. Years ago, he loved a woman named Amelia, a kind, gentle soul, who believed success meant nothing without peace of heart. She was not rich, but she was real. She made him laugh when the world demanded silence. She made him believe that love could calm chaos. But the higher he climbed, the more he forgot where he came from. Then came Victoria, the daughter of a billionaire, confident and influential. Everyone said she was his future, the connection that would open every locked door. Slowly, Amelia's messages went unanswered. Her dinners turned cold, and her smile faded in his memory. When she asked softly, "Have you stopped loving me?" he stayed quiet. That silence spoke louder than any words. He told himself it was for the best. He told her love was not enough. She walked away with tears she refused to show. And that night, as the city lights glittered below his penthouse, Ryan didn't feel powerful. He felt hollow, like he had built a kingdom with no soul inside it. Weeks passed, and Amelia tried to rebuild her world, piece by fragile piece. She worked long hours at a small photography studio, forcing smiles for clients while hiding the pain in her heart. But one morning, she felt a strange weakness that wouldn't go away. The doctor's words came softly. She was expecting a child. Her hands trembled as she held the ultrasound image, tears falling not from fear, but from love. She whispered, "You're all I have now," and promised to protect the tiny life growing inside her. She never told Ryan. He had made his choice, and she refused to be a shadow in his world. Every night she spoke to her unborn baby, telling stories about a man who once made her believe in forever. She kept his memory alive not out of bitterness, but because she wanted her child to know love once existed. Meanwhile, Ryan's empire grew, but his heart didn't. Victoria was elegant, powerful, everything he thought he wanted, yet when she laughed, it never sounded like Amelia. When she smiled, it never warmed him the same way. Some nights, he poured himself a drink and stared at the city lights, haunted by a question he couldn't silence. Had he traded his soul for success? And somewhere across town, the woman he left behind was carrying the one reminder of what he had lost forever. 3 years later, fate decided to test what time had tried to erase. Ryan stood in a crowded charity event, his company sponsoring a children's hospital. Cameras flashed, laughter filled the air, yet he felt strangely distant, as if every smile around him belonged to someone else's world. As he turned to leave, his gaze caught a little girl sitting by the door, holding a worn-out teddy bear. Her eyes, clear blue and deep, stopped him cold. They were the same eyes that once looked at him with love. The child smiled shyly and offered him a handmade card. "Thank you for helping our school," she said softly. Something inside him trembled. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lila," she answered, then added proudly, "Mom says my name means hope." Her voice carried warmth that felt painfully familiar. He watched as she ran toward a woman adjusting her scarf near the exit, her hair glowing chestnut under the lights. For a moment, Ryan forgot how to breathe. It was Amelia. She looked stronger, calmer, but her eyes carried a quiet distance. She held Lila's hand, unaware that Ryan's world had just frozen in place. He wanted to speak, but his voice failed him. As the doors closed behind them, the truth hit him harder than any loss in business ever had. That little girl was his reflection, his consequence, his second chance, and he had let her walk away without a word. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. The image of the little girl with Amelia's eyes kept flashing before him, each thought sharper than the last. He tried to focus on his work, but every document blurred, every call felt empty. He knew deep down who she was, even before he allowed himself to admit it. The next morning, he sent his assistant to find out more about the charity school. When he saw Amelia's name listed as the photography teacher, his heart pounded. She had built a quiet, humble life without him, and somehow he felt both proud and broken. He drove to the school one afternoon, parking far enough to watch from a distance. He saw her kneeling beside the children, helping them paint, her smile real and peaceful. Then Lila ran into her arms, laughing, their bond so pure it hurt to witness. Ryan gripped the steering wheel, realizing that love had never left. It had simply grown roots somewhere he could no longer reach. Gathering courage, he finally stepped out. Amelia turned and froze when she saw him standing near the gate. For a moment, the years vanished. Their eyes met, filled with everything words couldn't say. "You look well," he managed to whisper. "You too," she replied softly, her voice calm but distant. Before he could speak again, Lila tugged her hand. "Mom, who is he?" Amelia hesitated, then said gently, "Just someone I used to know." Her words cut through him like quiet thunder. The question lingered in Ryan's mind like an echo he couldn't silence. Just someone I used to know. It replayed over and over as he sat alone that night, staring at the empty glass in his hand. For years he had believed power and wealth would make him complete. But one look at that child, his child, and he realized how hollow victory felt without love beside it. He couldn't let it end that way. He had to try, even if he didn't deserve forgiveness. The next day he went back to the school, this time with a donation large enough to rebuild the art wing. He waited until Amelia came outside, surprise flickering in her eyes when she saw him again. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. Ryan's voice shook. "Because I owe you both more than I can ever repay." For a moment, silence stretched between them, filled with memories and unspoken pain. Lila ran to him, handing him a small photo she had drawn, 3 stick figures holding hands under a bright sun. "This is you," she said, smiling. "You look lonely, so I drew you with us." Ryan's throat tightened. Amelia watched, her expression softening. She had spent years building walls, but seeing Lila's joy around him began to melt the edges. Maybe, just maybe, some wounds weren't meant to close. They were meant to remind hearts where they truly belong. Rain began to fall softly that evening as Amelia locked the school gates. Ryan stood waiting by his car, his suit damp, his eyes holding a mix of hope and regret. "I didn't come to take anything from you," he said quietly. "I came to say I finally understand what I lost." Amelia looked at him, her face unreadable. "It took you long enough," she replied gently. Her tone wasn't bitter. It was tired, like someone who had learned to live with a scar. Lila peeked from behind her mother and waved. Ryan knelt down, meeting her bright blue eyes. "Hi, Lila," he said with a shaky smile. "Your drawings are beautiful." She giggled, handing him another small picture. This time, 3 figures standing together under a rainbow. "That's us," she said proudly. For a moment, time stood still. Tears filled his eyes as he realized this little girl had unknowingly given him the forgiveness he couldn't ask for. Amelia watched him, her heart torn between the past and the present. "You don't owe us anything, Ryan," she said softly. "Just be better than the man you were." He nodded, his voice breaking. "I will be." As they parted ways that night, Ryan looked back one last time. For the first time in years, he didn't see failure or regret. He saw a reason to change. Some stories don't end with reunion. Some end with redemption. And for Ryan, that was enough to start again.